grocery store. You're walking down the canned foods aisle and you pick up a can. You notice it looks a little different from the rest of the cans. It's slightly swollen. Well, chances are this can has botulism. Although botulism isn't usually a deadly disease, I think it's still important to know what botulism is, the types of botulism, and treatment and prevention. According to Health A to Z, 110 cases of botulism are reported each year. Of those cases, 25% are related to food-borne illness, 72% is related to infant, and 3% is related to wounds. What is botulism? Botulism is a rare illness that is produced by a toxin. It is usually rod-shaped and it can be found in soil. It grows in low oxygen conditions and produces spores which allow it to lay dormant until it can find an environment suitable for living. Here's a picture of the rod-shaped spore-producing bacteria. There are 7 types of known toxins of botulism. They are represented by the letters A through G, but only A, B, E, and F are harmful in humans. According to this chart, out of all cases reported of botulism, A is the most prominent with 36.7%, B with 13.7%, E with 15.1%, and F with only 0.7%. The remaining is identified with 39.2%. The first type of botulism is foodborne botulism. This occurs when food is improperly stored and preserved. The symptoms of botulism usually occur after the contaminated food is eaten, usually 9 to 18 hours. But it can start as early as 6 hours, or as late as 10 days. Symptoms usually include blurred vision, weakness, nausea and vomiting, dry mouth. As the botulism progresses, paralysis occurs, starting with the head and moving down the body. As paralysis occurs, breathing gets harder, and without medical attention, the patient will most likely die. According to Medical Lab Observer, the FDA found an outbreak of chili contaminated by botulism and 4 people were hospitalized. The FDA then found out that the cans of chili came out of the heating and sterilizing process too fast, which causes the cans to swell and allows for botulism to grow. The second type of botulism is infant botulism. Infant botulism occurs in the intestines. Most likely infant botulism is from spores in the air or breathed into the infant by dust. They are more susceptible to this than adults are. Also, infants can get botulism from honey. When the spores are ingested into the body, it colonizes in the intestines, and as it grows, the body absorbs it. Symptoms of infant botulism are constipation, lethargy, poor feeding, and as botulism progresses, sucking and swallowing become difficult for the baby. The baby then begins to look sloppy, and breathing becomes difficult. This chart documents the cases of infant botulism from 1976 to 1996. The most reported cases of infant botulism was in California with 680 cases, New Hampshire with 166, and Texas with 63. The last type of botulism is wound botulism. Wound botulism occurs from a traumatic injury due to surgery or drug use. Wound botulism is when botulism colonizes in the wound and the wound itself produces the Clostridium botulinum bacteria. Here is an example of a wound infected with botulism, and it spreads throughout the wound. Symptoms of wound botulism are similar to foodborne botulism, with the dry mouth, the droopy eyelids, the nausea, the vomiting, etc. As of right now, there is no known vaccine for botulism. In adults, an antitoxin is administered to them, although this antitoxin cannot be given to infants. So instead, they are given a botulism immune globulin, or BIG. Antibiotics cannot be given for botulism due to the fact that when the Clostridium botulinum bacteria is killed, it releases more and more toxin into the body. If breathing becomes difficult with botulism, respiratory support is often needed. Surgery is used for wound botulism to clear the wound of the bacteria. Also, flushing the gastrointestinal tract, and often doctors will induce vomiting to clear the stomach of the bacteria. According to the Centers for Disease Control, the mortality rate of botulism has decreased in the last 50 years from 50% to only 3 to 5%. There are a number of ways to prevent botulism. According to the Nurses Reference Library, home canning has become a big upspring in the world today, and it has increased botulism throughout the world. Botulism usually occurs in low acid content cans such as beets or corn, so try to prevent those. Potatoes that are cooked in foil should be kept warm until ready to be eaten. Botulism cannot be smelled or tasted, so throw away any foods that you seem to be contaminated without tasting it. And also, if you produce home canning foods, boil them for at least 10 minutes before eating them. And remember, do not give honey to infants. In conclusion, I just briefly wanted to speak to you about what botulism is, how you can prevent it, maybe prevent yourself from getting it, and never buy a Bolton can. Thank you.